Hello, everyone, and thank you all so much for joining us on our weekly Friday webinar. Today, I am joined by our awesome managing attorney, Ruby Powers, and we are here to discuss Immigration 101, what to do with your documents. And just some quick background on our attorney. She has been licensed since 2008 and founded our firm back in 2009. She's also a board certified immigration and nationality attorney. Attorney Powers, do you want to take it away?
Thanks, Jaya. So we wanted to talk about this because can be misunderstood, and no one really talks about what you should do and not do with your documents. So we just wanted to do a little webinar on this, and hopefully it can be helpful to you. So learning objectives: what can be used to verify immigration status? What should I carry with me? What should I laminate on my documents, and where should I store them? All right, so there's lots and lots of documents that can verify your immigration status here in the United States. We usually, the legal permanent residency card, also AKA green card. A long time ago it was green and then sort of stuck, right? And also its equivalent of the I-551 stamp, which all proves legal permanent residency. So this is one card that verifies status. There's the reentry permit. There's a refugee travel document. There's work authorization. Now, work authorization that in itself doesn't necessarily mean you have a status, but usually it's tied to another status that you had pending or approved, like temporary protected status to DACA, or green card pending or asylum pending, what have you. Machine readable immigrant visa, that is more when you get the visa stamp or immediate relative or immigrant visa and you're coming into the country and it says you can come in. When you enter, you get 1 year when you enter. So that temporary 551 stamp on your passport. There's the arrival departure card, the I-94. Back in the day, it was this little white card. It was sort of short and small and square looking, and often people would get lost. But now they've been doing the electronic I-94s, which you can just sort of Google electronic I-94 and the website that'll pop up, and you can put in your passport information, your date of birth, and your name that's on the passport that you entered in on, and it should pop up your electronic I-94. So let's see, you could also have the I-20 document. Now that's it gets a little confusing because that's in conjunction with an F1, and I-20s are issued to establish that you are it's still in school or in status, but you still have to maintain the validity of the F1, and sometimes the I-20s are not completely in sync with the visa in your passport potentially, but they're usually duration of status. There's also the DS2 2019, which is eligibility for exchange visitor. So that's the J1, and that establishes your status or the timing that you're allowed here. Now, notice of action. Now, this is used for lots of different things. This is basically the I-797. That form is used for many, many different things, showing generally like approvals for different statuses. And so it can depend on what that is, how long the status is. But these are just sort of an overview of different documents that one could demonstrate, right? You could also indicate membership in a federally recognized Indian tribe or American Indian born in Canada. And then there's also ORR documents with the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Office of Refugee Resettlement. And this is also where we see for the unaccompanied minors, Office of Refugee Resettlement eligibility letter for children who came by themselves on their own. A lot of those documents are from the ORR, establishing just like more about the entry and how they came into entry, but it doesn't necessarily confer a status necessarily. And so when we say status, it's not in the normal legal sense of status, like allowing you to stay. Some of these are also showing you like that what you're applying for or how you entered, and maybe you need to later change to another status. And the alien number or I-94 number. So This, not everyone who has, someone who can have an A number, but not necessarily have a status. Back a long time ago, A numbers were sort of more readily had. And now it's more limited to when you file for certain applications. Even when you file for certain things, you might not be issued an A number per se, but generally the A number, otherwise the alien registration number, is sort of like, if you imagine the immigrant social security number. Even those who naturalize later on still have that A number, but that was as a reference of what their number was in the immigration status all these days. And now, just for fun, we're, I think, in the 220 something, maybe 226 maybe A numbers, but those who, some of the old A numbers that you see could be like 075 starting, and or even older. So one can really tell when they first interacted with immigration by how old, what their A number is, somewhere along the way. Now, should you carry your documents with you? Well, I would generally say it depends on what you're doing. And if it's very difficult to replace the documents that you have, which most of the cases it is, I would probably keep them in a safe place, and only, and if you're not traveling or don't necessarily need to demonstrate them for an interview or for travel, for airplanes or things like that, or leaving the country, I would probably keep them in a safe place and just have a copy of it or an image that you can easily retrieve. So permanent residents are legally required to carry their green cards with them if age 18 or older. Many people do carry them with them, just like a driver's license, to be able to establish it. Very likely you don't need to show it very often. You might only use it to show when you're traveling and when you're applying for a job. But for the most part, you want to keep a copy of it in multiple places so that you can easily find it, and be safe with that. Because to replace a green card, you have to file the I-90 form, which has it's like $400 or $500 filing fee, and it could take 6 or 8 months to get a copy of that. So you just want to be really cognizant of that. So they should have, the INA says you should have the green card at all times, and that a photocopy is not acceptable. But I think for the most part, unless you're traveling or near an airport, traveling near a border, or work authorization, I haven't seen that a person actually needs the original on the person. But if you want to keep that, then that's fine. Just know that you should have a copy somewhere so that if you needed to replicate it at some point, you could. Let's see. And the other thing is that some people don't actually have that card. They have the I-551 stamp, which is the equivalent of a legal permanent residency card. They might have that while they're waiting for their green card to be renewed or waiting for their green card to be issued to them. So like we said, you would have to file the I-90. And if you file if you lost it or needed your green card to be replaced, and you can file the I-90 electronically and get a receipt pretty much immediately, and you could go to USCIS with calling and getting an appointment and everything with a valid passport, and then renew the receipt of the I-90 to get an I-551 stamp. And in terms of all other documents besides the green card, I would say have a copy of it, and keep it in the originals in a safe place. And just because it's just so hard to replace things. And that's unless, like I said, you're either needing it to verify for an interview, for travel at the airport or border, or applying for a job and need a copy of it. Now, definitely you should not laminate. Laminate and these government documents should not go hand in hand. No, 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 no. We once had a consultation where an individual had laminated their naturalization certificate, and then was turned around the next day and was applying for a U.S. passport, but the Department of State for the U.S. passport said that that document had been tampered with, destroyed, mutilated. I forgot the exact word they used, but that it was no longer valid. So the individual had to go and turn around and get another certificate, which can take 6 or 8 months or so, and another $500 or $600 with the N565 form. So that's with the certificate of naturalization. But for your green card, no, I would not, don't modify it in any way. So do not laminate your documents, your immigration documents. It will not be well perceived and could be considered null and void. So where should you store your documents? I mean, I definitely would suggest storing them in maybe a lockbox at a bank or a home a small fireproof safe that you know that is secure, something you can have easy access to, but very likely will be hard for an individual, someone to find, and that you can have you just sort of that peace of mind. So that's what I would suggest, because every form that you have to replace, and a green card or certificate of naturalization, a stamp or anything, it just all takes another $500 or $600 and another 5 or 6 or 8 months. So it's just unfortunate. So just try to do your best to keep those documents. Just have a scanned copy, have a copy, and save them somewhere safe. And sometimes we get calls from clients from a long time ago asking us for copies of documents just because they didn't keep one. And sometimes we play detective and we say, well, did you ever apply? They lost the document. They didn't keep a copy of their own. I say, well, did you ever apply for a job before? And did they have a copy, or your school, or where else did you give a copy to it? And then they like start thinking, and then they go and try to find it. And so I would just say that no matter what original document that you have in your possession, even I, as a U.S. citizen, I need to keep copies of my passport, my driver's license, because you never know, and you want to be able to have it easily accessible. So this was just a little primer, Immigration 101, on some things about documents. And I would add, if you are someone who doesn't have status, what I would definitely suggest is to make sure that you have your children's and your own and your spouse birth certificates, marriage certificate, and those types of documents scanned in one organized place in case you ever need it for bond or some other immigration court documents, and also and some taxes as well. That would be great if you have the last few years of taxes. So anyway, I just wanted to give you a little information. Daya, how can they stay connected to us?
Yeah, so if you guys want to stay connected to us, you can subscribe to our newsletter. That information is found on our website. And you can also give us a follow on all of our social media. We're on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. We have our Facebook. We also have a TikTok where we're posting good videos with some are funny, some are good information. You kind of have the best of both worlds on there. Right here, you can see all of our usernames. We have Ruby Powers Law, Powers Law Group, and Powers Immigration Lawyer. And thank you all so much for joining us on this Friday webinar, our first webinar of the month of March. Join us next week for what is the F1 visa. And Attorney Powers, do you want to let them know where you're going live from?
Oh, yes, from Chicago, definitely colder than Houston. And it's definitely a great opportunity to network with others in the legal tech space and law practice management to help keep improving the firm and our services for our clients. But I'm glad that I could be here with you and share this information.
All right.